We're just waiting for him to give us the high sign that it's
You're
on.
free to proceed.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, good morning. I'd like to call this meeting of the Trees and Green Infrastructure Committee to order. We'll start with a roll call. We may have another couple of members join us in progress, but we have a quorum, so we can continue. Call your name, say here. Terry Eskew? You may be on mute.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Richard Byrne.
Here. Good morning, everyone.
Elise Burns.
Here.
Joan Flaherty.
Here. Good morning.
Andrea Hoffman.
Here.
Great. So what we don't have here is Bunky Markert and Katie Downs. I think that's all we're missing. Also, so before we start on our agenda and approval of minutes, everything, I'll just tell you we have two guests today. One of whom is on the agenda, and that's Cindy Lovett, who's going to be joining us to talk about partnering with Rehoboth and Bloom on a tree tending effort. In fact, I may change the agenda and do that first since she's with us so that she doesn't have to sit through the rest. But the other visitor we have today will soon be a member, Robert Van Horn, there who you'll see on screen. Robert, want to raise your hand so people know who you are. Actually applied to be on our committee, I guess, a couple of years ago, and contacted, so we have an opening. In fact, I'd like to get 2 additional people so that we're up to 11, but right now we will be 9 as of next Friday when we vote to approve Bob for the committee. So I invited him to join us today just to sort of see what we're all about, and as of next meeting he'll be an official member.
Thank you, Susan.
Great.
Do you want to say anything to anyone that you're interested in joining us? I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're welcome.
No, sure.
Yeah,
no, I'd be happy to. Sorry about the dog. He's my companion, especially during COVID. He follows me everywhere, so he might bark a few times. But anyway, actually, I know a couple of the members pretty well, Dick and Katie Down. Actually, Dennis and I bought our house from Andrea and Abe. So, hi, Andrea. It's been a while.
Yes, it has.
So just a little bit of background. I did apply for this a couple of years ago after I recently retired. I have been coming to Rehoboth for about 30 years. Dennis and I have been, and we've been property owners for about 22 years. And we live on Grove Street in Andrea and Abe's old place, as it turns. I grew up on a farm. I was telling Susan this, she's heard this before, but I grew up on a farm and I have a pretty close connection to nature. I was a biology major in college, and my graduate work was in biochemistry. I spent 32 years in the pharmaceutical industry before I retired a couple years ago. So I also served for a while on the greening committee of our neighborhood civic association in Philadelphia. There were 2 committees actually working at the same time, the Philadelphia Horticultural Society, and then our greening committee. The greening committee was absorbed into the Horticultural Society's neighborhood greening programs. So at that point, there were quite a few people on the team, and I stepped back. But that's really it. I just wanted to introduce myself, and I'm happy to be here, happy to help out as much as I can. And thanks again, Susan, for the call.
Oh, thank you for the introduction. And also, Bunky Markert has just joined us. Welcome, Bunky.
Hi, everybody.
Bunky.
Okay, so I sent the minutes out to everybody yesterday, and if there aren't any, I got one comment back from Elise who thought they were in good shape, and once again, thanks to Joan for taking excellent minutes. Do we have an a motion to approve them? It's for the meeting held on November 13th, 2020.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Okay. The other 2 are I did not finish, so we're only doing those ones for November 13th. And we did not get any correspondence as far as I know. I didn't hear about any from Ann. And like I said, I'd like to skip around if we can on the agenda, just since Cindy is with us, and start by talking about the partnering with Rehoboth and Bloom on the tree tending effort. And I know that we have 2 members of our committee that overlap with Rehoboth and Bloom. Maybe all of you can collectively give us your thoughts on that. I'll turn it over to you, Cindy.
Sure. Hi, thanks for inviting me.
So Rehoboth in Bloom is in our, we finished our second year, and 2021 will be our third. And one of my, if you look at American Bloom, one of the things that, which by the way, we are not a member of because it costs $1,100 a year to do that.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm not ready to spend that kind of money on, I'd rather buy plants. But anyway, they want you to be involved in trees. And I think it's a great idea anyway. And it all kind of started because Suzanne Rowland, I don't know if anyone knows her, turns out that she is a master gardener. She is a tree tender. She's got all this experience, and she's also a super cool, smart lady. And she was doing the boardwalk gardens until we realized that it was going to take money to do anything up there. So we kind of killed that. So we got talking about trees, and she got very interested in this. So that's when we learned that Elise and Joan are both on the tree committee. So we got talking about it, and there's a tree tender program that's offered online. So I believe Elise and Joan are both taking it. Susan already has it. One of the other volunteers, Marcia Bird, has experience in other towns working on tree committees. So it turns out we've got a lot of people who already are very much into trees. So what our thought is to create a tree tender team as part of Rehoboth in Bloom. Our team, which looks like 6 people right now, the other 2 will be Tammy and Ching Haas, I guess it is. I don't know how you pronounce her last name, but they worked with Susan, and she thought that on the boardwalks, and she said that they're wonderful workers and were very enthusiastic. So that's the 6 people on the team. And what we thought we would do is work together with your committee. We would be the hands-on part that's out there on the street doing the work, coordinating with you and Liz and anybody else we need to. Suzanne will be the lead. The way Bloom is set up is we currently have 6 teams. Each team has a lead who I communicate with, and then they communicate with their team. And we have a total of 42 volunteers at this point. We need about 8 more, 2 men. So Suzanne's going to be the lead, and we don't want to get this thing too big. One of my biggest roles with Bloom is to keep the wheels from coming off. We don't want to grow so fast that we lose control. So what we're asking is, what Suzanne and I were trying to come up with is ways that we can, I'm really bummed Liz isn't here because I would have loved to talk with her, but we'll meet separately, I guess. How can the tree committee help, and what are the tree tenders help the tree committee and Liz and the city? So a couple of things that we thought with, and I'll just run over the things we talked about. Then I want your input, and I'm hoping a good exchange, and we'll come up with, kind of a plan that we can take to Liz. Some of the things that need helping, of course, is watering, and we'll talk about that later. Weeding where the trees are, keeping the mulch loose so that when it rains, that the water does go down. Removing suckers from the trees. We have to pick a focus for 2021 because we certainly can't cover the residential and the downtown at the same time. We don't have enough people, and it's too much. The wheels will come off. It's not going to work. So I don't know if Liz, and this was one of the questions for her, is she planning on doing any plantings for 2021? If so,
Of course, I'm
maybe
sure
that should be our focus. Pardon me?
I'm sure she is.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Cindy.
How are you?
Good. Yes, Liz is planning on doing a lot of planting in 2021.
Good. Well, then our focus would maybe be to help support those trees that she's planning on planting, to keep them watered and all that kind of stuff.
My guess is she will have a perfect spot for you to work on.
That would be great. And that's what Katie, I don't know when you came in, but we're going to try and keep it to like 6 team members for 2021, unless of course, a really great idea comes across and we get the volunteers. But we have to be careful to just like not let this thing fail. So yes.
Well, we're going to be planting all of the street beautification area. And I just talked to Liz about that. so that would probably be a great area for you to focus on watering and weeding and taking care of, so you could take care of plants and take care of the trees in that area.
Now, where is that going to be, Katie?
Right there by Bad Hair Day.
So the
All that
Lake,
is-
you're talking about
is
the
there-
Lake Avenue streetscape.
the
Right.
Lake Avenue
Good.
streetscape.
Is there
that
going to be water there, Katie?
Yes, there's water in the central, in the central triangle,
Okay,
and it's
good,
there existing.
good.
And it's gonna be a lot of plant material.
Okay. Well,
Um,
that almost sounds like a new team for Rehoboth and Bloom, as opposed to a tree tender project. Additionally, the trees, but that sounds to me like we need a new team, and that would be to tend that garden.
that Susan just asked me last night if I would present
Yeah.
the plans at the January 8th meeting, and I will do that. We so, but Liz will have copies of that.
Okay.
She just gave me some revisions that I'll need to make. So I've got to do that before the meeting.
Okay,
But anyway, we need to get a little further into it and see what's gonna happen. But I mean, she would be the person to speak to,
sure.
obviously.
Well, and
But
part
it's-
of the reason I was asking for that to be at the next meeting was I knew Liz would be at the next meeting, and I also thought your plan, I didn't want, it wasn't on the agenda for today.
Okay.
I didn't want to, I didn't want to add it at the last minute or put you on the spot to talk about the plan today. So that's why we can talk about that in detail next time. Elise has a question.
Well, Katie, just one question about the plan. What's the timeline?
That's
I mean,
what I
is
was gonna
it,
ask.
is it spring or fall planting?
Spring planting is what Liz is
Okay.
hoping for.
Okay, good. Okay.
Now, Cindy, let me interrupt you. Oh, Terry has a question.
Katie, how many trees are going to be there and what are the size, the caliper of the trees?
Well, we're talking about the caliper size because that's something that Liz is has asked me to reduce. So it's right now I think she would like 2 to 2.5 inch caliper. I have them spec'd out right now at 2.5 to 3, but
Are there?
there will be 6 oak trees. There will be hopefully 2 Nissus sylvaticas. There were supposed to be 2, but the plans got changed. So there will definitely be at least 1 Nissus sylvatica. And then there will be 7 single stem Magnolia virginiana, Green Mile or Henry Hicks, I think, or no, Green Mile or Moonglow, and 4 Juniperus virginiana, Concorcor, which is emerald green. They'll get to be about 20 feet tall.
Great, that's wonderful. Cindy, let me ask you a question before you go on, or before we talk about the involvement of our group more. You mentioned the task that the tree tenders would do, the watering, the mulch, tending, the weeding, and the suckers. But are you concentrating on just new plantings? Because obviously the team could not do every tree in the city, but I thought it would generally you were looking at supporting new tree planting so that they survive, right?
That's basically what Suzanne would like to do, is watering is the biggest problem. It truly is. And to say that the city needs to do it, that's just not the answer. The city is already understaffed. It's not possible. We have to come up with another solution. So we would very much like to try to help to figure that out. We did identify it's like a boat trailer that has a big 250, 300 gallon water tank on it. But they run about $5,000. Now there's a good chance there's a grant out there for something like that. Then it would be a hitch to like a car or somebody's truck or something like that, because also our people can't drive the city trucks. That's not an option. So we have to figure out a way to move water and get it where it belongs, get it delivered. So working for the new trees to help them survive is, I believe, Suzanne's biggest focus. That's what she wants to do.
And I'll tell you, I had a short email exchange with Liz. Andrew, I'll get to you in a minute. I just want to tell everybody this, that I had a short email exchange with Liz, in fact, just last night and this morning, where I mentioned that we were going to be talking about this and wanted to talk about it more at the next meeting. And I mentioned the concern about watering. And she said that we shouldn't spend much time talking about watering because she has somebody, a contractor, doing that weekly. So we don't need to worry about it.
Wow.
But the new plants get watered daily, don't they?
Flowers do. Trees don't need weekly. Would you say that's right, Katie?
The trees need weekly. Yes, they would certainly need weekly watering to get established.
Yeah.
Right. And I think
they don't need daily when they're like the first couple weeks.
They would need they would need it at least every other day.
Okay, yeah, at least. Yeah.
I was going to say they need a really good soaking, right, Katie? Right. I mean, you need buckets full of water, maybe
buckets full of water. Yes,
2 or 3 times
lots of water.
I just wonder if that weekly watering, how they really water trees. And I mean, we don't even see evidence that they're filling up the
bags.
The watering bags. And I mean, Cindy, Joan, and I did talk about the new plantings on Rehoboth Avenue and around the circle that we've all talked about, and how they may be on our list too, because they were just planted and some of them don't look so good.
We could easily make the blooms focus then, if in fact, I have seen the bags empty more than I've seen them full. That's just my own observation, but maybe I'm wrong. And I walk around a lot. But it is possible that if in fact the watering is covered and we don't have to worry about it, then it would be more of a tree, maintenance, like keeping the soil loose, cutting off the suckers, stuff like that. We're like trying to figure this out, and this is what we're looking for input of what can our role be. Let me just quick finish the list that Suzanne and I talked about. A future plan could include things like creating a vision plan, educating homeowners and neighbors, involving the community members. They can take tree tender courses. We could even give a tree tender course, encouraging neighbors to take the course for their own education. And possibly, I would bet you that many of them would be interested in just helping maintain the trees on their block. We could actually set up a block tree committee that would, be willing to people want to get involved. They really do. And everybody loves trees. I mean, unless it's, funny thing, I heard everybody loves trees as long as they're on your neighbor's property. So anyway, that was all my stuff. So I'm looking for input. What can our role be? I've got 6 willing people that want to get out there and help our trees survive. So what can we do?
Susan, I had a question following up on what you just said a few minutes ago. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. You said that Liz had said something that the watering is taken care of. Is that Sposato or who's?
I have to assume so. She didn't say specifically, but it's contracted out, so I have to assume that's
supposedly last year we're supposed to keep the watering gator bags, filled.
Yep.
I agree. I mean, around town it was pathetic. They were just not maintained. They were not filled. So that's why I'm curious who she's.
Well, and the ones on Munson this summer were much better. I looked at them and I think I only saw one that was even, didn't have much water in it. All the rest were nearly full. So that part was working well. I also know that there seemed to be some issues with the ones around the circle. So I don't know what the story is there.
Yeah, that was
So bottom line is, I don't know if we have a watering problem or not. I mean, Liz says we don't, it's taken care of, but at the same time, we had mixed results with those watering bags. And
Susan, who oversees the watering? Who goes and checks on all of these bags?
it would be Liz. It would be Liz.
Okay.
So
I wonder if maybe that should be something that the tree tenders should do. Take that off of Liz.
Well, and she might very well welcome that. She might very well welcome that.
Okay.
And so I guess my question at this point is, and I talked to Cindy about this yesterday, but basically, I guess this tree tender group would be kind of a joint venture between Rehoboth and Bloom and our committee, in that we have a couple of overlapping members and we have overlapping goals. So, how does everyone feel about that? I mean, and so you're not looking for all of us to get involved with it, I assume, right? You want the group.
Goodness, no. I would like to keep the team under Rehoboth and Bloom's, circuits. And once things get set up, I'm going to the way I do it is the leads take the lead. I'm here for like whatever. And once Suzanne gets set up and we know what her role is and we have a plan, then, Suzanne will be the one to manage the tree tender team and coordinate with you guys and with Liz. So that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
Cindy, Susan, I was going to say, I think it's great. Cindy, thank you so much for doing that, because I've said for years that we need quote unquote boots on the ground to keep track of trees that are planted and trees that are existing. Have people really have eyes on the different areas so we can maintain the health of trees. So I really appreciate your doing this. I think.
Thank you, Terry. I think it's going to be fun, and these 6 folks are pretty excited about it. I mean, it seems like all I have to do is put the word out, and we get volunteers, so it's pretty fun. It really is.
I think it's great.
Cool. Thank you.
And I think it'll be manageable if you're working with new plantings. And you asked a question earlier on, what are Liz's plantings this year? And that's what I want her to talk about next month. But my sense is that in addition to the ones that we would have as part of the Commemorative Tree program, which I hope to be the Lake Avenue and possibly even the ones down on State Road, I have to think that in addition to that, she has other planting plans just as part of her regular, annual planting.
Okay. Yep.
So, and I don't remember, we had a chart a couple of years ago of how many the city had planted in a given year versus how many had been taken down, all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to update that. I can't recall right offhand how many new ones she put in a year. But anyway, that would be your emphasis, is on the new plantings, right?
Well, that's what Suzanne felt would be the thing, is to really protect the new trees. Now, Katie's the new garden there on Lake Avenue. I would love to put a team together. Katie, can we put any annuals in there or something like that for color?
There's going to be quite a bit of color. I would say that annuals for that space would probably, there would be spots where you could do pots, because there will be a seating area. So you could do planters with annuals in them, but there won't really be space for doing annuals. That's not how the garden was planned.
Okay. Well, as far as planters, though, those I'm not planning because of COVID and because of money problems. I'm not really planning on buying any planters this year. Those rectangular ones you see uptown, they're $450 a piece. And I just don't have the money right now. And we'd rather invest in some gardens. We're also putting one, we call it the turnaround garden, up at the far east end of Rehoboth Avenue, between the end of the street and across from the bathroom. Matt Gaffney's putting a perennial garden in there.
Oh, good.
Which and he's worked with Liz. We're all set. We've got the money from people that donated in our Facebook fundraising. That's where that money's going to go for. And we've got the money to pay for the flowers for the planters, but for 2021. But right now we have no money for planters. I mean, the big vases are $500. The small vases are $350, and the rectangular ones are $500 also. So I just don't have money for that right now. And of course, they're having all kinds of sales, 25% off, but on the planters. But I can't do it because what happened is we didn't have the dance last year, so we didn't get the planters paid for. And thank goodness Main Street and our treasurer picked up the bill, and all the people that sponsored them, we paid back Main Street and paid back Walt, our treasurer, thank goodness. So they're all paid off now, and I can't go through that stress again. So for 2021, so unless I get a big old bunch of money dumped on me, we're not getting any new planners for next year. But that would be really cool to put planners there, Katie. I like that idea, but we can't do it for next year.
Okay.
Okay.
I just suggested, as you roll on this out, and hopefully we can engage people, in town who would, participate this. I mean, I certainly envision, I can speak for myself and more so my wife. She has sort of like a regular walking route that she has, and she could certainly take part in checking on these bags and other stuff, as she's walking
Sure.
around. I'm sure we got hundreds of people in town that do the same thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just suggesting, you use the means by which you would be, getting the word out, but please engage with Nextdoor. I think you'll find a lot of people that would probably be more than happy to participate.
Sure. We could even call it something like Eyes on the Trees or something that could report just.
This is a thing, and people would be happy to take part.
That'd be fun, like Eyes on Trees or something like that.
Yeah.
And they could then let Suzanne know if they are bags that aren't being filled. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, lots of people are walkers. Okay.
You had something.
I wouldn't want to be Suzanne.
No, she's excited about this. She is actually a retired, like CEO, high level, and she just retired. And she really wants to, she's a type A on it girl. She's awesome. You're going to love working with her. She's wonderful. So yeah, she's excited about this. So we'll see how it goes, but that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay.
And I do want to say, when you're saying about people downtown, do you know of my 42 volunteers? Do you know how many live downtown? 10.
Yeah.
All the rest, we have eight or 10 girls come in from Sawgrass every Tuesday. They're from all what I call our nearby neighbors. 10
Right.
people from downtown.
Right.
That just shocked me.
Excellent.
But they love this town
I
too.
can say on our Wilmington Street team, there's only 2 of us that live
Yep.
in the city. And we've got these wonderful volunteers that drive in, and they'll drive early to avoid the traffic so they
Yep.
can get in here. And we meet up at 7 a.m. every Tuesday,
Yep.
work on the plants, and they're so happy to do it.
It's, one of the.
It's amazing.
It truly is, Dick. And the thing that I didn't see coming, normally when I do volunteer stuff, I wind up doing all the work, which is kind of what I saw myself out there taking care of all these planters. The commitment everybody has to their planters it's amazing, right, Dick? I mean, they are so, in fact, I saw on your street, so we converted to the holiday. Your people added extra stuff. They brought in holly, they brought in extra balls to put in. And
Right.
it's just, I never saw that coming, but it's like one of my greatest joys is the commitment that everyone's got to these planners.
And a couple of the shopkeepers even put battery operated little lights out there for the
Yep.
holiday season.
Yep.
So
It's-
everyone wants to contribute, and
They
be a
do.
part of it and help.
And actually, the farm market team, we didn't realize when we planted that little garden down there how horrible the soil is. It's like gravel. And those 4 girls, well, 3 of them, came 3 days a week to water those flowers. That's just like above and beyond. And I kept saying, you need more help. And they're like, no, we're happy. Leave us alone. You're crazy. So we're trying to get them irrigation because we want to plant a pollinator garden down there in the spring, but there has to be irrigation. I can't do that to those folks next year, but so we're working on that.
Now, Andrea, you had something.
Yeah, I think the tree tender course sounds wonderful, and I'm wondering whether we could offer something like that. That really sounds. I'd like to take it.
Yeah, it's
so
60,
I would be up for looking
Sure.
into that.
It's $65 and it's online and it starts in January. I can send Susan the link.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be fine. Send it out.
Okay, I'll do that. And some of our local people might be interested, interested in doing that, which could really create a neat little tree community that we could do.
Mhm. I was going to say it's through the Philadelphia Horticultural Society.
Yeah, Elise, you have the link. Why don't you send it?
Yeah,
Elise,
I have the
send it
link.
to Susan.
I would love it.
And
Okay, send that to Susan. Okay.
I think it's 6 classes, January and February.
Okay.
Okay, well, Cindy, thank you for joining us and explaining all that. And, we look forward to, we'll talk to Liz about the plans next week and next month rather, and we'll go from there.
Well, I wonder if in the interim, Liz, Suzanne, Elise, and Joan and I should get together and have a conversation with Liz about what her expectations could be or what her role is before we bring a plan to you.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, the plan that Liz is going to talk about next month goes beyond, I think, just your group. It was going to be an overall questions about the tree planting for the coming year, and especially about the parts where it'll involve the commemorative tree. So it's not all about, it's not all about this, but sure. I mean, you're welcome to you know.
Okay, Joan and Elise, you guys in on that? Okay. All right, so I'll set that up with Liz before your next meeting.
Okay, great. And the next one is January 8th, I think, is the Friday.
Okay. Before January 8th. Got it. Okay.
So we have half an hour left, and in that time, I'm going to go back to old business and get an.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye, Cindy.
Bye, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
So I'm going to go back to and let Andrea give a brief update on Arbor Day 2021, and then go right into Commemorative Tree with Terry's going to give a report from the Farmers Day event and what we've done for publicity.
I finally met with a teacher, and she is speaking for teachers, at least in the 5th grade, possibly in the 4th grade. We do have an art show. The teachers are ready to participate in the statewide art project. And that will mean that we're set up to at least, as far as that program, that part of the program goes, the suggestion, I think, is that we mount, if in fact there is still COVID and we're not going into City Hall, we would basically mount a show with definitely 5th grade and possibly 4th graders artwork, and face it out so that the kids could come by and look at their artwork. Making sure that our commemorative tree is not covered up. So we would use the windows all the way around the building and keep our commemorative tree front and center. So we would have an art show. The rest of the program is still up in the air, but the idea of planting 6 trees for the 6 classes at the elementary school is still alive and well. The school was interested in doing that back in the day, right before they had the dedication of the new school. I did find out through Liz, and I talked to Susan, we cannot use city money to buy plants to plant on the property, on the school property. So what Liz told me is 6 trees for the 6 classes, K through 5, would cost about $1,000. And in talking to the teachers, there is a possibility that the PTA could raise that money to buy the trees. There's also a possibility, I'm going to check back with the folks that run Arbor Day at the state level. And I had talked to them about the need perhaps for some money, because I wasn't sure what the situation would be at the school. But there is a possibility. I'm going to check on state funding for that planting for Arbor Day. It would be an Arbor Day activity. So we're still up in the air as far as the kids go and what's going to happen. But what we would like to do is to plant 6 trees on the property, one for each grade, and we'll see how that works out. Otherwise, though, I'm thinking about those trees at Lake Avenue and whether or not, now that I hear they're oaks, whether or not we could do an Arbor Day program at I'm not sure what the timing is, but whether we could use that for Arbor Day as well, in addition to. So I throw that out there. Otherwise, until we really have a better idea of what's happening, our planting with the kids is up in the air. But we will have the art. We will definitely have the art part. Any questions? Yes.
Katie.
As far as the time frame goes, Arbor Day is, I think, what the 22nd of
April 30th.
April 30th.
April 30th.
Friday, April 30th.
So I don't know. I'm just not sure what the time frame will be on that. That may be tricky, just because you're sort of at the mercy of the landscape, whoever gets the bid, and the the construction and the weather. So that may be tough for that specific project, but I don't. But talking to Liz would be the best thing to do.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the date doesn't matter that much. We have to read a proclamation. I mean, I don't know that the date, we could have two ceremonies, one with the kids and then another one at Lake Ave. The whole idea of Tree City and everything, 6 Oaks is just, whoa. Love to celebrate that way. So I don't know that a date matters that much.
Is the mayor required proclamation, right?
Yes, that's the requirement. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Couldn't he do that at the Lake Avenue site and say, read the proclamation and then say these trees are being planted here at this location?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Or he could.
I'm sure the city will be working that out between Liz and the communications department and everything. That's all gonna. I mean, every year they do something, right? I mean, every year there's a proclamation. So I think we ought to. We shouldn't, plan too far ahead without involving them. But that's another thing to talk to Liz about next month. Yeah. But you think that's a good spot to do it? You're saying, Andrea, from our committee's perspective, that would be the place to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I certainly agree with that. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on Arbor Day?
I think that's it. If anyone knows anybody that has a child, an active parent that has a child that may be in the PTA of Rehoboth Elementary School, send me a name. Otherwise, that's it. I'll be looking for $1,000. Okay.
Great. Okay, thanks. And then actually that's a good segue right into Commemorative Tree, since hopefully those oaks at Lake are going to be part of our program. Go ahead, Terry.
So I was thinking it would probably be best if I start with the Holiday Farmers Market, and I'd love to get input too from Elise and Joan, who were kind enough to spend the day there with me. But I don't know if you guys can see this.
Yes.
This is, can you see that pretty clearly?
Yes.
We had a display, and I think it was really helpful because what I did was I made a gigantic poster of the commemorative tree in City Hall. And it really helped people to understand what the program was about. But overall, I just think it was such a fun day. And I think that we spoke to almost, between the three of us, about 50 people, and handed out just tons of brochures. The one thing, and I contacted Elise and Joan afterwards because, I was questioning them about what they thought of the day. And it was interesting because most people, vast majority, I almost had 100%, but most people had no idea there's a commemorative tree program, which was kind of disheartening, but it makes you realize that we really need to get out there and communicate to the public what's going on. And the other interesting thing, and I talked to Chris about this, is when we showed them this poster, you know, of the city hall, some people thought that this was like a future planned project. And I said, no, you have to go past City Hall and it's there and it exists. And the one thing that really, you know, obviously people, well, let me back up. Some of the people were really appreciative that the city is doing this project, because most of the people said, one of the reasons we really love Rehoboth is because of the trees, the character of the trees, the character that it gives our town. And the analogy that I made with them or for them was, I kept referring to the bricks on Rehoboth Avenue, because I said, you know, the bricks on Rehoboth Avenue, a lot of people go there and say, wow, look at my family brick or my commemorative brick. And you now have the opportunity to do that by planting a tree and having a permanent commemorative plaque in City Hall. And so a lot of people were very enthusiastic because, like I said, most of them had no idea this program was even going on. So number one, we really need to start publicizing it more. And on that, what I did was Chris and I, and with input from Elise, I'm sorry, not from Elise, from Susan, we had the article in the Cape Gazette. Yeah. And I talked to Chris. She said that she also sent out 5,000 emails on the city, you know, the contact list for the city. And of those, because she's able to check, 1,400 people opened the email. So at least 1,400 people as of 2 days ago had read that email. And she's gotten a call from a couple of people. I'm following up with 3 people that I talked to at the farmer's market. One of the things that kept coming up, like usual when we talk to people about the fund, is they want to make sure that the money goes toward planting trees, not for maintaining trees, not for taking down trees, for planting trees. And I kept saying, look in the brochure, it says it right here. Yeah. So, you know, so anyway, that was a good thing too. I think it was a great opportunity to educate people. And I was going to ask Elise and Joan, give me your feelings too, because I've spoken to both of you, but I think you're both happy.
I mean, it was a great day, and your poster said it all. I mean, it was such a great tool to use to say this was what the tree looks like. I mean, I have similar comments to Terry that not many people knew about the program. They certainly knew about the commemorative bricks. We, you know, we talked about that and said, no, that program has been put aside. This is the new program. And I mean, we had a lot of interested people. It was well worth the time. And I would say people would like to know where their trees are being planted. Yeah, that comes out too. Mm-hmm. So I think we need a better idea from Liz going forward about where we're planting these trees, so they can go. They want to take their family members to see the trees and say, hey, this is where our money.
Right. Yeah, that's
where our money went towards.
We were very clear, you know, and we were very clear with people that you're not going to have an individual tree. However, if we tell them, okay, there are 25 trees being planted, you know, if we get an idea, something of this sort, if 25 trees on some street in Country Club Estates next fall, it allows them to go with their family and go walk down the street and say, look, you know, our money contributed to the planting of these trees. Yeah. And then they can take their family to City Hall and say, look, there's our plaque commemorating whatever, the event, whatever.
And I have to say, you know, Terry's done a lot of work on those engraved leaves. I now know how much work went into those. Yes. Since helping her this summer. And people love them. And they're pretty. And they're so pretty and bright, and everyone said, oh, they look like sea glass. And
right,
yeah, it just looks so nice.
I think one of the things that was really nice too is that Terry had the leaves there, examples of them, and that was something someone could put it in their hand, take a look at it, see what somebody else said on a leaf, and I think it kind of shored up the fact that they may definitely want to participate. But the other thing is they did ask for examples of where are the trees, the 51 trees that were planted last year. So we did direct them to Munson Street. and encourage them to walk down Rehoboth Avenue and see if there's a tree with a bag around it. Probably that was planted too. So if we had some kind of indication that if you go onto our website and you see trees being planted or discussed about planting in Rehoboth, it'd be nice if there was a map to show where all those trees have been planted, and that each year it's growing. I'm sure people would appreciate that.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I'm going to talk to Chris about, because I know last year I was using the example of McLean, Virginia. They have a map that's constantly being updated. And I think it would be very easy to do this on a website.
Yes, probably.
Casey Trees has exactly the same thing. There are dots just on a square. You just put Rehoboth down and there are dots all over the place. And what's nice about Casey Trees is they actually say this, they identify a tree as having been planted in honor of someone. We don't have to do that, but it does. Every dot on the map tells you what the species is that was planted, which is very nice.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is they also in McLean they have the map, and it shows you know, this is where the oaks are. These are whatever the
Exactly.
So I think that's really something we could work on.
I think so too.
To know where their money's going, and I don't blame them. The other thing I was going to say is we did not get any commitments on that day, because if you can understand, if someone's going to commit $1,000, they want to give some thought to what they're going to say on the engraved leaf. So everybody took the brochures and they wanted to give some thought onto what would be engraved. But it was so helpful having the leaves there showing what other people had said, because I think that really, you know, helped people visualize what's already there. Let's see, what else was I going to say? Let's see. One of the things, and I think Elise and Joan would agree with this, the opportunity to actually meet individually with people and speak with them was so wonderful, because a lot of them became so enthusiastic about, you know, I need to tell my neighbors, or I'm going to talk to my family, or, you know, it was really a wonderful way to really speak individually. So one of the things I was thinking about is, you know, like, and this is just one example, I was thinking about maybe this summer, well, because let me back up. So many of the people that I spoke with, a lot of them were just vacationers here, and they would talk about, yes, I'm just staying here with friends or whatever. But they would say, you know, we've been vacationing here for many, many years. So I'm thinking maybe this summer, you know, the round area in front of City Hall where there's kind of like that patio area, walk in the front door. It's kind of like that rounded, it's outside. It's right in the front door of City Hall.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is, I wonder this summer, and I'd be willing to do this, and I think it's just a great opportunity, like I said, to really talk to people. I wonder if we could set something up there, maybe some on a couple of weekends, and we could have a display table, because we're right next to the actual tree there in City Hall, but actually set up something like we did at the farmers market and show, you know, and ask people for donations, hand out brochures, because there's so many vacationers that come to town and they want to commemorate the fact they've been coming here for whatever, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. Or they want to commemorate a special event. But I think that might be a nice way to have just a couple of weekends where we could hand out brochures and actually interact with people, because I think that made so much difference. Would you agree, Joan and Elise?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I know Cindy put up a table in front of Browseabout, I think during sidewalk sale weekend, and got a lot of donations that way.
You know what else is funny? Speaking of donations, some of the people that, as we were talking to individuals, some of the people walking behind heard us talking about donations for trees in Rehoboth. Joan brought, she actually brought a glass jar, and we collected almost $50.
How much?
Some people, almost $50, because people just put money in the jar thinking, oh, we're collecting for trees. And so they would just come by and they would just see, you know, they would just put a couple dollars on the table. So anyway, so we have that to go toward it. But
Andrea,
I was just going to say, Terry, you know, you could get a table at the farmers market. Every week we rotate, and there is a different organization that comes in. We could get a table at the farmers market, perhaps a couple of Tuesdays in addition. And I think that would be you certainly get everyone coming through what we used to, but I'm sure that there's always a lot of traffic there. So I think that's another possibility. I also just want to say thank you to the three of you for giving up part of your holiday weekend to do that. And I also have a confession. In my desk drawer in Rehoboth are 3 sample leaves. I found them.
So anyway, I think that market was a great success, and I think that's just one way that we can really reach out. And anyway, so and like I said, we had the article in the Cape Gazette.
Right.
So I think it was a very positive experience. I think it was really worthwhile.
That's great. Well, and I like the ideas of expanding that display part of the publicity by either doing some farmers market, similar ones in the in season, and also possibly doing some elsewhere in town if we can get permission to do that, either at City Hall or just somewhere up in town. I think that's good. In fact, one of the things I hear you saying about, people aren't familiar with it, the first year was so good in terms of the donations and what we were able to get and the number of contributors, that hearing that there are a lot of people that don't know about it just make me think there's even more opportunity out there.
Yeah.
And so it means we can keep going back in publicity, and each time we do it, we're probably reaching people that just didn't pay attention or didn't get it before. And I almost wonder if maybe each time there's in addition to this map, that each time there's an area that's selected for planting trees. So maybe it's a few here, a few there. Each one of those can be a reason to put out, publicity about the fact that this area was selected or was just planted or whatever. And then the next area generates more publicity, so that we're really doing that more than once a year. We're doing it pretty often.
I think we definitely need to start, because, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, and talking with people from Lewis and Bloom, and they had the Bucks in Bloom tree that was set up in Lewis. That was really successful. They raised $50,000 in a month.
And how remind me what they did?
Well, they had a gigantic wooden tulip, and it was called Bucks in Bloom.
Yeah.
And they set it up on the main street in Lewis, and they were asking for donations for their Lewis and Bloom. And I think, as I told you at the last meeting, I spoke with a couple of the people that manned that, and they raised $50,000 in 1 month.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to have some kind of, if we could have during the summer when you've got a lot of people going up and down Rehoboth Avenue,
Right.
And at the farmers market too, to really interact with the people and have, we could get some kind of campaign together for the trees, commemorative trees.
They did. I mean, from my memory though, Terry, they did a lot of mailings.
They did do a lot.
Yeah, they did a lot of mailings.
Too.
I think that tulip was really their form of a thermometer, telling people how much they had raised. Yeah, it was a nice visual.
Here I have one other question for the committee, and I don't I'm not promising anything, but I was thinking about this last night. If in City Hall, where we have the beautiful wooden trunk itself, and then we have the individual leaves. So right now we have the 3 levels of contributions. What if we were able, and this is just pie in the sky, but I'm going to try to be idealistic here. What if we got one donor to give a huge donation? And I'm talking like $10,000 or $15,000 or even $20,000. Would it be okay if we had a brass plaque on the trunk itself saying, that donor's name, or let them fill it out as a donor, not as a leaf, but actually have like a plaque on the tree, so that would actually be the sponsor of the whole trunk of the tree? Because I'm thinking, I'm wondering whether, and I was going to, anyway, I've just been giving this some thought. If we could go after several donors, but somebody gave us a big donation, if we commemorate that or honor that with, and the only thing I can think of is the trunk of the tree. If someone gave $10,000 or $15,000, what do you think?
I think there's some kind of, there's a lot of different ways to deal with that. Ordinarily it's you got a donor wall or something like that in a museum or something like that. But I think we have a lot of flexibility there in order to be able to acknowledge that. It could be something separate, could be part of the trunk. You could, commemorating another branch or something. I don't know. There's like a lot of different things I think you could do, but sure. I mean, certainly you're going to want to acknowledge it, in a public way.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because it's already there. It's not like we're planning this. We can
Right.
put
Terry,
it's already there.
Terry, how about, do you remember we were going to have birds? We could get somebody, I mean, the birds would be a nice addition.
That's true. But we'd probably have to do the wood. We talked about wooden birds though, right?
Correct. Yeah, we did talk about wooden birds, but
it's just something I was thinking about is if we went after somebody or an organization or something that we got some big donations or one large donation, how we would,
without asking you to name names, and I'm not, are there possibilities in that? Are you thinking of specific possibilities, or are you just throwing that out there as something we should strive for?
Well, I'm just thinking, my son is in LA and he deals with some corporations and different people who are very successful on the West Coast. And I'm just thinking, if I went after somebody that said, sure, I 10,000 or 15,000, that's no problem. How would we honor that? Because it's more than just giving them, a bunch of leaves or anyway, I'm just kind of throwing that idea out there.
Yeah. Well, because my concern about putting it on the trunk, and maybe we should think ahead because we don't want to box ourselves into a corner, but there's only one of those. So what do you do if you have more than one, and that's why Bunky talked about a donor wall, but it's something to think about.
Well, the whole tree is our donor wall.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, if you put a brass plaque on the trunk, what do you do? Then are you saying, okay, we're only going to get one of these?
Yeah.
But no, that you got to really think strategically about that.
Yeah.
I think it's a broader discussion than 5 minutes here.
Yeah, I just throw it out.
Talk to my wife. She'll give you an hour's worth of how this works.
But that's great, Terry. And again, thanks to all to you and to Joan and Elise who took time out that day. And I think it sounds very good. And it generated the photos for the press release that we did and all that. And so the awareness is getting out there, and each time we do it, more people become aware. So I'm very pleased about that.
With the time.
Yeah. We are actually narrowing down to the virtual meetings are supposed to be only an hour, and I know a few of them have gone slightly over, but not much. So I don't want to take advantage of that. I'm almost wondering if we should postpone the revised mission statement that I sent out yesterday. And in fact, I did it in the 11th hour, so I don't even know if you've all had a chance to read it. And I did not send it to Bob yet. If we should just talk about that next time, or if anybody has any initial feedback about our expanded mission statement.
Susan, I had a question. I'm looking at it right here on my phone.
Yeah.
I think is the second or third sentence where you say the committee also works with city staff to incorporate green infrastructure. How realistic is this? I mean, are we really able to work, quote unquote, with city staff to?
Well, I mean, the point was when Tony had first presented this presentation and got the input from the commissioners, or the agreement from the commissioners that yes, that this would be acceptable or would be desired, was that any city project that as it's being planned would involve our input in making that part of the plan. And one of them, obviously the Lake Avenue streetscape is an excellent example of that. And while we weren't involved in the beginning of that, because that started a few years ago, we're certainly involved now. And so that's the idea, is that anytime there's an ongoing project in the city where trees can be incorporated into a public project, we want to have a seat at the table.
But this is not just trees. I mean, this is all
well, right. And I mean, and for us, it is primarily trees, but you're right. I mean, just in the same way that, yes, green is green. And we obviously, everything in the city can't be canopy tree, which is one of the reasons to expand the mission statement. And so, yeah, I think our initial focus is trees, but then it's whatever else is around that. And we'll hear that for the Lake Avenue plan, next month. In fact, there are a lot of elements to that aren't strictly trees.
Is there anything like the permeable pavement or any of that that's quote unquote green infrastructure? There's nothing like that going on, is there?
Well,
Right.
actually, now that since you mentioned that, at our workshop meeting on Monday, we actually had a little presentation from Building and Licensing. They had identified something like 20 areas within our code that were either problems for them or were confusing or things they wanted to address in terms of code changes. And one of them was pervious versus impervious pavement. And
Perfect.
how it counts toward, I'm thinking they must be looking at it for how it
Yeah.
counts toward lot coverage or whatever. So they're thinking about that, and believe me, my ears perked up. So you know, I want to talk to them more about what that means.
And Susan, if I may add,
Yeah.
The Environment Committee has also approached this topic and has had some preliminary, not in-depth, but some preliminary discussion. So, you know, I think it's great that
Yeah.
several groups have an interest, have a concern, and maybe there's going to be a point where several can come together across these groups, kind of put their strengths and their interests together and see where topics like this can go.
Right. Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to sort of interject here is I believe, and this is again based on belief, and I don't know necessarily if it's ever been carved in stone, but I think the major intention of expanding and developing these committees, you know, was obviously to get more citizen input into some of the decision making and so forth and so on. But the other side of it is that I feel, and you tell me as a commissioner, you both commissioners, that if we, I'm trying to look at this in terms of a strategic planning kind of a structure, that assuming, and this is a big assumption, and I recognize historically it's never really played out that way, but that the comprehensive development plan more or less serves as a model or a structure for a strategic plan for the city. You know, the goals of the city and so forth and so on. And in my experience in dealing with strategic plans, usually in an organizational way, is that you then take the strategic plan and you divide it up and you create actions and so forth in order to achieve the things that you want to do in the strategic plan. So I'm sort of seeing this group as being sort of part of that we're assembled here in order to be able to sort of take on a chunk of that. And that chunk, I believe, yet to be sort of completely defined. But if we're talking about trees, we're talking about green infrastructure, all that kind of stuff, that we would be sort of, assembled in order to be able to deal with those aspects that filter down from the strategic plan, that there's linkage between the strategic plan and us into implementation or whatever you want to do. So I'm just looking at if we're going to go, go back to the drawing board with regard to our mission statement, I think it should be in that context. So, and I don't know how you all feel about that. I mean, if you want to just think of it in terms of tasks we can do or tasks that we think we ought to be involved in, but I would really like to see this as being something that strengthens and really takes part into being part of the strategic plan.
Okay, so you want to see it coordinated with you. First of all, you want to see it mention the CDP, and you want to see it coordinate with the goals of the CDP or the. Okay, and
whether or not everybody buys into that, I believe it. So,
I think that's an excellent idea, and I'm telling you, I am just waiting for that draft to come through, and I'm hearing that we may not see it now for another month or two. And I'm fine putting this on hold till that. I think it's a great idea. But I absolutely, I can't wait to see the CDP and to see how green infrastructure and other related issues are covered in this.
But I'm just saying, even for now, we've had several CDPs. I think we sort of have the general ideas. I don't think there's like a lot that's going to change or be drastically different. So I'm just saying, I'm just looking in terms of framing it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a very good point. So let me look in. I don't know what I'd like to see it pegged to the new one and not the 2010, since there is a new plan.
I don't know if it would be that specific.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
If the mission statement, you don't want to make it that specific, but I'm just saying in terms of how we frame the discussion.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let me look at that, and we can talk about it in more detail next time. In fact, if any. I guess this is the part where if there are any other committee member comments, and we can also maybe discuss items for future agendas at the same time. Any thoughts?
Well, I think we need to give some thought, obviously, to the mission statement.
Yeah,
And just kind of review what you've given here, and then just see if there's anything we want to, you know,
okay,
change or add. But I think
Okay.
that's really important at this point, since we've changed our name.
right, yeah, okay, yeah. And then obviously a big part of the next meeting is going to be talking about the tree planting for 2021 with Liz, and Katie's going to talk about give an overview of the whole Lake Avenue streetscape plan. So I think that'll be very exciting for next time.
Yeah.
So, and anything else then? Or most of our meeting, I guess, will focus on and then an Arbor Day update. I guess we can also talk to Liz about that in terms of the timing and where we would do that. Okay.
Good.
Sounds
Well, Bob, any thoughts having joined us for the first time?
Nothing ground shaking, just that this has been a real pleasure, and thank you very much for inviting me. And I look forward to serving on the committee if that works
Great.
out.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good, nice to see you.
And thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Great. Look forward to your participation. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, adjourn the meeting at 11:07.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you,
Thank
Susan.
you, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Happy holidays.